The teachings of the Buddha always bring us profound lessons about how to live, about inner peace, and about liberation from worries and troubles in life. In the fast-paced and noisy modern world, sometimes we feel exhausted without knowing why. It seems that, despite doing many tasks during the day, we still cannot find peace of mind. This is when the Buddha's teaching, it is not the many tasks that tire us, but the mind that does not know how to let go, resonates like a gentle awakening. This statement is not only a reminder about how to find peace in life, but also a valuable guidance on how to let go of the worries and negative thoughts that dominate our minds. The Buddha teaches that it is not in the actions or busy activities outside, but in our mind, where the source of fatigue lies. When the mind does not know how to let go, we easily get caught up in endless streams of thoughts, worrying about the past, fearing the future, or stressing over things beyond our control. It is these thoughts that are the real cause of fatigue. The Buddha teaches that letting go does not mean abandoning responsibilities or neglecting tasks, but rather letting go of unnecessary worries and fears. When we are no longer caught up in meaningless anxieties, the mind becomes lighter and life becomes more peaceful. So, how do we let go? The Buddha teaches that the best way to let go is through mindful living. In every moment of life, we should try to focus on the task at hand, not allowing our mind to wander into external worries. Only when we truly live in the present, not clinging to the past or worrying about the future, can our soul find true peace. There are times in life when we feel so tired that we cannot even explain why. Even though we have not overworked or gone through stressful events, we still feel like our heart is heavy and our mind is chaotic. This feeling is not rare, and sometimes we ask ourselves, why am I tired? This fatigue does not come from the body, but from the soul. It is when we are unable to let go of unnecessary thoughts, worries, or emotions. The Buddha teaches that it is not the many tasks that tire us, but the mind that does not know how to let go. This teaching is like a bright light in the dark, showing us the path to find peace in our hearts. Each of us carries thoughts, worries, and burdens that we have not yet released. Sometimes, all it takes is a moment to stop seeking distant things, and we realize that it is our soul that needs healing. There is a simple but crucial thing we can do to find peace, and that is to let go. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibilities or ignoring important things in life. Letting go means accepting, living in the present, and not allowing thoughts or worries to take over our minds. Thoughts and anxieties that continuously circle in our minds become a burden on our spirit, preventing us from experiencing peace in life. The unexplained exhaustion often arises from those thoughts we have not let go of. We carry too many concerns about the past or the future. We worry about things that haven't happened yet, suffer from things that have passed, and forget that the present is the only thing we can change and live fully. When the mind is constantly busy with worries, we cannot truly live in each moment. Every passing second offers an opportunity to find peace, but if we let our minds wander, we will never notice. Healing is the process of letting go of worries, negative emotions, and unhealed emotional wounds. The Buddha teaches that if we keep carrying unresolved pain, it will become a burden in our journey of life. Healing does not mean erasing all pain, but learning to live harmoniously with it, learning to understand and forgive ourselves. Only when we let go, not only of external actions, but also of our internal thoughts, can we truly experience peace in our hearts. Practicing mindfulness is one of the most effective ways to let go and find peace. Mindfulness is not a difficult or abstract skill. It simply means living completely in the present, focusing on what we are doing, and not letting other thoughts interfere. When we focus on our breath, the sensations in our body, or each action we take, we realize that every moment has value. Every moment is precious. When we live mindfully, We are no longer swept up in worries about the past or future. We simply live, feel, and exist. This does not mean abandoning the preparation for the future or forgetting the past, but it means allowing worries about them to leave our minds during the present moment. When we live in this moment, we will feel everything lighten, as if the burdens on our shoulders suddenly disappear. Healing is not something that happens overnight. It is a long and persistent journey. But each step along the way is a significant advance. When we understand that fatigue does not come from work or life, but from the mind that does not know how to let go, we will be able to take control of our own lives. Then one day, we wake up with a light heart, no longer worrying about what has passed, no longer fearing what is to come. Let each step of the day become an opportunity to let go and live fully. Only when we allow our soul to be free, letting go of unnecessary things, can we find true peace. The Buddha teaches that when the soul is light, we will feel the peace in everything around us. No matter how many storms we face, no matter how many challenges we encounter, we can still remain calm and keep tranquility in our hearts. And that is the healing we have always been searching for. Let our mind become a peaceful space where all good things can come and stay completely. In this busy life, we sometimes feel tired for no reason, not because of overwhelming work or external pressure, but because our soul is not at peace. The Buddha teaches, when the mind is not at peace, no matter where we are, we will feel tired, making everything heavy. This saying is like a profound wake-up call, reminding us that all fatigue, worries, and stress stem from our own minds, not from external factors. When the mind is not at peace, we cannot feel joy in work, relationships, or in life itself. The mind is constantly caught up in thoughts, worries about the past, the future, or things beyond our control. That is why we feel tired, even though we may not be overworking or facing great challenges. When the mind is not at peace, everything, whether small or large, becomes heavy and difficult. We all know that when the mind is peaceful, when the soul is light, everything around us becomes easier. When we truly live in the present, not allowing worries or negative emotions to take over, everything becomes simpler, clearer, and lighter. The Buddha teaches that peace is not something that can be found in external things, but within our own hearts. When the mind is at peace, everything is peaceful, whether in ordinary times or difficult challenges. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a woman who lost her child and went to ask the Buddha for a remedy to heal her pain. The Buddha told her to find a family who had never experienced sorrow and bring some earth from their grave to make the medicine. The woman searched everywhere, but could not find such a family. In the end, she realized that everyone has their own pain, and instead of seeking a remedy from outside, she needed to calm her mind. Only when she accepted the pain and allowed her soul to heal did she feel peace again. The truth is, none of us live without facing hardships, sorrow, or challenges. But if we keep clinging to those things, worrying, fearing, and not knowing how to let go, our souls will always feel heavy. The Buddha teaches that only when we know how to let go, not clinging to pain or worry, can our souls be free and at peace. Healing is not about erasing all pain, but about learning to live in harmony with it, not letting it dominate our mind. We cannot change the past, and we cannot control the future. Worrying about things that have not yet happened will only make us tired and prevent us from living fully in the present. The Buddha teaches that mindfulness is the path to inner peace. Mindfulness is not an abstract or difficult concept. It simply means living fully in each moment, focusing on the task at hand, and not allowing other thoughts to distract us. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to acknowledge and accept our emotions and thoughts without reacting to them. Instead of immersing ourselves in worries, we learn to observe these thoughts as clouds passing by, without letting them control us. The feeling of tiredness and anxiety will disappear when we know how to live in the present. when we no longer cling to negative thoughts and emotions. Our minds will become lighter, and when that happens, everything in life will become easier. One profound healing method taught by the Buddha is meditation. Meditation helps us listen to ourselves, helps us calm the mind, and helps us realize the precious things in life. When we meditate, we are not just sitting still, we are learning to be still within so that the mind is no longer disturbed. Meditation helps us see life clearly without being clouded by worries and troubles. When the mind is not at peace, no matter where we are, we will feel tired. Even if we are in a quiet place, living in favorable circumstances, if our mind does not find peace, everything will become heavy and uncomfortable. Therefore, we must learn to take care of our soul, making it light, free, and peaceful. Only when our soul is at peace can we truly feel joy and happiness in life. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not something distant, but peace within the heart. When our mind is at peace, when we know how to let go of worries and troubles, everything becomes lighter and life is filled with joy. Take time each day to return to stillness in the heart, to live in each moment, and to feel the peace from deep within. When the mind is at peace, everything will be at peace. And when the soul is healed, we will experience true happiness. In this life, there are times when we feel tired without knowing why, as if an invisible weight is pressing on our shoulders, making it hard to breathe, even lightly. Some days, we don't do much, but still feel exhausted. Unfulfilled expectations, unsaid sorrows, and things that haven't been closed yet, like wounds that haven't healed, continue to linger, constantly clinging to our soul. But the important thing is to realize that it is the mind and the unresolved thoughts, the ones we have not let go of, that are the deep cause of our fatigue. On an ordinary day, when you go outside and see people hurrying, rushing, a man walks by, hurried, his face frowned. He says nothing, just looks down, immersed in his own thoughts and worries. Suddenly, he trips on a small stone on the road and falls. And at this moment, instead of just feeling pain from the fall, he becomes angry and blames himself. Why am I in such a hurry? Why do I keep thinking about things that don't matter? At that moment, he is not just hurt from the fall, but also from the endless thoughts, the expectations that are never enough, and the worries that he cannot stop. There is a saying of the Buddha that I always keep in mind. When the mind is not at peace, no matter where you are, you will feel tired. This saying is like a gentle reminder that it is our soul that is the source of peace or unease. When the mind is not at ease, no matter how beautiful everything around us is, we cannot be happy. Negative thoughts, unfulfilled desires, and pain that has not been released are like big rocks blocking our path. They make everything become heavy, preventing us from living fully in each moment. So, how can we let go of these burdens? One simple way is to learn to recognize and understand our own emotions. Do not let them linger in our minds without resolution. Face the sorrows, unfulfilled expectations, and things that haven't been closed. Sometimes, just stopping for a moment, taking a deep breath, we will realize that everything can be let go. That is the freedom that each of us can achieve. For example, there is the story of a woman named Lynn, a single mother who had to care for her children and manage her life. She often felt tired and stressed. The expectations of a perfect life, of doing everything well in her role, prevented her from stopping. She always felt she hadn't done enough, hadn't been perfect as expected. But one day, while sitting by the lake, she decided to let a leaf fall onto the water. Watching the leaf float away, she suddenly realized, I can relax. I don't have to hold everything in my hands. And from then on, she learned to let go of pressure, accept things that weren't perfect, and live fully with what she had. Lynn's story is also the story of many of us. We often make ourselves tired with unfulfilled expectations, sorrows that haven't been named, and things that haven't been closed. But the truth is, life is not always perfect. We cannot control everything. Things that cannot be changed, let us learn to accept and let go. Take some time to rest, to slow down, and to find peace in our own hearts. I have always believed that each time we let go of something, a burden, our soul becomes lighter. When we are no longer caught up in worries, no longer immersed in negative thoughts, we will find true freedom. And then happiness will come naturally, without having to search far. Happiness is simply the peace in the heart, the acceptance of things as they are, the understanding that life does not always have to be perfect, but always contains valuable lessons for us to grow. Each of us can find peace and happiness if we know how to let go of what is unnecessary. Live gently, calmly, and remember that in this life, nothing is more important than the peace within the heart. In this busy and rushed life, sometimes we forget that peace does not come from external things, but from within our own hearts. There are times when, even though we live in a comfortable, well-off environment, our minds still cannot find peace. The Buddha teaches, a peaceful mind brings peace, even if living anywhere. This saying is like a sincere reminder, telling us that it is our soul that is the root of peace. A peaceful mind is not easily achieved, especially in the modern society full of distractions and worries. Every day, we face countless challenges, from work, relationships, to life's troubles. But it is in these busy and noisy moments that we must remember that peace does not lie in seeking a perfect shelter, but in the ability to keep our soul firm and calm, no matter where we are. A peaceful mind is a state of acceptance. The Buddha teaches that when our mind no longer struggles with reality, when we no longer cling to desires, expectations, or negative emotions, we will find inner peace. It is peace that comes from living in each moment, accepting everything around us without judgment, without worry, without fear. When we can live in the full presence of each moment, we will feel profound peace in our hearts. And at that time, no matter where we live, no matter what challenges we face, our soul will still remain calm. In Buddhism, one of the key methods to achieve inner peace is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the full attention to each action, thought, and feeling in the present, without being swept away by worries about the past or future. Mindfulness helps us stop in each moment, helping us live fully with what is happening, rather than worrying about what has not yet come or what is past. When we live with mindfulness, our soul becomes lighter still, and everything around us becomes more serene. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a meditation master searching for peace. One day, he walked past a large river and saw a man struggling against the strong current. The master sat by the riverbank and began to meditate. The other man saw him and asked, "Master, how can you sit so still when the floodwaters are rising so high?" The master smiled and replied, "When the mind is no longer worried about the flood, when the heart is no longer afraid, one will feel peaceful no matter where they are." This teaching reminds us that our mind is the most important factor in achieving peace. Even if we live in a difficult situation, no matter how many challenges we face, if our mind is at peace, we can still feel tranquility. A peaceful mind is not about avoiding difficulties, nor is it about trying to find an ideal place to escape troubles. In fact, peace is about accepting everything in life, including hardships and challenges. When we no longer fear difficulties, when we no longer try to change everything around us to make life easier, our minds will become free and serene. A peaceful mind is when we know how to love and accept ourselves, without comparison, without judgment, and without demanding that life be perfect. One method to maintain a peaceful mind is meditation. Meditation helps us return to ourselves, helps us listen to our soul, and recognize the thoughts and emotions present in our hearts. Meditation helps us let go of negative thoughts, relieve stress and anxiety, and bring calm to our soul. When we practice meditation, we not only calm our minds, but also relax our bodies, creating a deep connection between body and mind. A peaceful mind is not something that can be achieved immediately, but it is a process of learning and training. However, every small step in this journey brings significant changes in our lives. When we truly find peace in our hearts, we will realize that everything around us becomes better, whether in ordinary times or in great challenges. Peace in the mind helps us face life with more ease and wisdom. The Buddha teaches that when our mind is at peace, everything around us will become peaceful. No matter where we live, no matter how many difficulties we face, as long as our mind is at peace, we will find true tranquility. Let our soul be serene, without worry, without fear, and live in the present to fully experience everything that life brings. A peaceful mind is the key that opens the door to happiness and peace in life. In life, there are times when we face moments when our mind is not at peace. No matter how little or much work we have, whether we rest or not, the feeling of fatigue still remains. The Buddha teaches, when the mind is not at peace, no matter how little or much work we have, we will not find rest. This saying truly makes us reflect, as it points out an important truth in life. True peace does not lie in how much we do, but in the stillness of our soul. When the mind is not at peace, we always feel anxious, stressed, whether we stop working or not. The worries in our mind prevent us from truly resting, even if our body is in a relaxed state. How many times have we felt tired and unable to sleep well, even though we've spent a day doing little work? Or sometimes, even without doing much, we still feel pressure and distress in our hearts. This is the manifestation of a mind that is not at peace. The Buddha teaches that only when our soul is still can we truly rest and recover. Just like when we carry worries, sorrow, or negative emotions, it is like a cage for our soul, preventing us from relaxing and enjoying life. Endless thoughts about the past, plans for the future, or worries about the present continuously pull us into a spiral of stress. But when the mind is at peace, when we know how to let go of these thoughts, we will see that everything, whether little or much, becomes lighter. Healing the soul is the way to find peace. The Buddha teaches that to heal the mind, we need to learn to let go of unnecessary emotions, useless worries, and accept life as it is. Healing is not about completely erasing pain or anxiety, but learning how to live with them calmly, not letting them control our lives. This is the path to true inner peace. One of the important methods to find peace is practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is full attention to the present, living in each moment without being distracted by thoughts of the past or worries about the future. When we practice mindfulness, we are not swept away by endless thoughts about what has passed or what has not yet come. Instead, we simply live in the present, feeling each breath, each sensation in our body, and appreciating everything that is happening. In difficult times, when work piles up and our minds become confused, practicing mindfulness helps us calm down, master our emotions, and find peace within ourselves. When we focus on the present, we will realize that no matter how difficult or exhausting the work is, if our soul is calm, we can face it gently, without stress or fatigue. True rest does not come from stopping work, but from mastering the mind, helping it escape worries and troubles. We must also remember that peace of mind does not mean avoiding work or everything around us. Sometimes, peace comes from doing everything gently and enjoying each moment. If our mind is always chasing distant goals, always worrying about things that have not yet come, we will never find rest. But when we work with a calm mind, not clinging to results or expectations, everything becomes easier. Work no longer feels like a burden, but a part of life that we can fully embrace. The story in the Buddhist scriptures about a meditation master searching for peace is also very thought-provoking. One day, the master met a person who was very confused and tired, not knowing how to escape from worries. The master gently asked, "Can you stop worrying for a moment to find peace in your heart?" The other person was surprised and asked back, "But how can I do that when work and worries keep haunting me?" The master smiled and said, "When the mind is not at peace, no matter how little or much you work, you will still not find rest. Let your heart calm down, let go of the worries, and you will feel peace in your work. This teaching is very profound, as it reminds us that rest does not only come from stopping work, but from the stillness of the soul. When the soul is calm, we will feel lighter, everything will become simpler, and we can do everything fully without feeling stressed or tired. When we practice mindfulness and heal our soul, we will see that no work is too burdensome, no challenge is insurmountable. A peaceful soul helps us look at everything calmly, and from there, we will find rest and peace in our lives. Let your mind relax, let go of all worries, and live fully in each present moment. At that point, we will truly find rest, no matter how little or much work we have. Have you ever felt that, although life continues around you, you still feel lost within yourself? Even with so many things to do, so many tasks to complete, you still feel a deep emptiness inside? There are times when we race against time, caught up in plans and expectations, but forget that sometimes all we need to do is stop for a moment, return to ourselves, and listen to the simple things around us. We will find the peace we are searching for. During those times, I recall a story about a friend named Min. Min is successful in his work, always achieving the goals he sets. But gradually, he began to feel tired. Everything in his life became stressful and pressuring. He kept running and never stopped to appreciate the small joys of everyday life. One evening, as Min drove on a familiar road, he saw a large banyan tree by the side of the road. The yellow leaves had fallen all over the ground, and the lights from the houses illuminated, creating a very peaceful scene. Suddenly, Min stopped his car. He took a deep breath, felt the cool air, and asked himself, "Why can't I enjoy moments like this?" We all have times like Min. Today's life, with work pressure, complicated relationships, sometimes makes us forget one important thing: to stop, return to ourselves, and live in the present moment. We cannot keep chasing distant goals and forget that sometimes the small, simple things are the key to happiness. Imagine one day you spend time for yourself, not working or dealing with the endless tasks, but a morning when you wake up to the first light shining through the window without rushing to do anything. You go outside, look at the blooming flowers, and hear the birds chirping in the garden. That feeling is truly peaceful, isn't it? It's a lesson in living in the present, realizing that we don't always need to do something grand to feel peace. There was a time when I tried to spend a whole day just sitting in meditation in a quiet space. At first, I felt strange, not used to the feeling of just sitting still and doing nothing. But then as I stopped, I began to listen to the sound of the wind, the rustling of the leaves, and feel my own breath. That feeling was magical, as if I had just discovered a new world, a world I had never known in the rush of everyday life. In the Buddhist scriptures, there is a saying, "When the mind is still, everything is at peace." This is the profound truth we need to remember. When our mind is at peace, everything we see and feel becomes light and serene. Nothing is more important than making our minds peaceful. Truly, when the mind is free from worries and sorrows, we will find joy in what might seem like very ordinary things. When you feel life is too stressful, try to stop for a moment. Take time to listen to your breath. Observe what is happening around you. You will realize that sometimes peace does not come from grand things, but from the simplest moments. The yellow leaves falling, the flowers blooming, the gentle sounds of nature can all bring peace to our hearts. This is a valuable lesson. Learning to stop. Don't let the rush of life carry you away. Don't let yourself become a slave to expectations, to ever-changing goals. Take time to feel life, to notice the simple things around you. Only when we stop can we truly understand the value of small things, of the peaceful moments we have. We can learn so much from nature, from the simple, humble things around us. Like a falling leaf, a passing breeze, all of them can teach us how to live in the present. When we no longer chase after what cannot be changed, when we know how to stop and feel, we will see that peace and happiness are always right beside us. Remember that life does not always have to be full of busyness and goals. Sometimes, just knowing how to stop, return to ourselves, and feel the simple things around us will bring back the peace we've been seeking. Happiness is not a distant destination, but peace within our own hearts. In everyday life, there are times when we feel heavy, as if carrying an invisible burden on our shoulders. It is not the material things, but the worries, thoughts, and emotions that have not been let go. The Buddha teaches, letting go is not abandoning, but accepting and living truthfully with oneself. This teaching truly makes us reflect deeply, as it contains a valuable lesson on how to face life and liberate the soul. We often think that letting go means giving up, rejecting, or escaping the unwanted things in life. But in fact, letting go is not about abandoning. It is about accepting and living truthfully with what we are going through. When we learn to let go, we do not deny our emotions, thoughts, or challenges in life, but learn to accept them, not allowing them to dominate our soul. Only then can we truly find freedom and peace. Letting go is a gentle yet profound act. It is about not clinging to old memories, past pains, or unfulfilled hopes. Letting go is accepting that everything changes and nothing is permanent. When we accept the impermanence of life, we will no longer be bound by what cannot be changed. Instead, we will live fully in each moment without worrying about the past or the future. We live in a world full of conditions and expectations from society, family, and ourselves. These pressures sometimes make us feel tired and unable to breathe freely. But the Buddha teaches that when we know how to let go of unrealistic expectations, when we learn to accept ourselves with all our strengths and weaknesses, we will find peace in our hearts. Letting go does not mean we abandon responsibility, but accepting that not everything can be controlled. The only thing we can control is how we react to life. To practice letting go, we need to learn how to live truthfully with ourselves. In modern life, sometimes we forget ourselves because we are too concerned with what others expect. We may be living a life that is not truly our own, but a life shaped by society's, families, or friends' expectations. We may be trying to become a model that others want, rather than living authentically as ourselves. The Buddha teaches that living truthfully with oneself is the path to happiness and freedom. When we live truthfully with ourselves, without hiding, without pretense, we will feel much lighter and more peaceful. The truth is, when we no longer try to please others or meet expectations we cannot bear, we will find peace in our soul. Accepting ourselves with all our strengths and weaknesses is the way to live authentically and find freedom in life. We can learn to let go through practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us live fully in the present without worrying about the past or future. When we live in each present moment, we are no longer caught up in anxious thoughts about things we cannot control. Mindfulness helps us realize that every moment, no matter how small, brings value. When we live fully with each passing second, we no longer feel exhausted or lost in endless streams of thoughts. Instead, we feel peace within our soul. The Buddha teaches that in this life, peace does not come from external things, but from our own soul. When we learn to let go, we are no longer burdened by worries or pressures. Letting go helps us accept and live truthfully with ourselves, not letting others' expectations or prejudices control us. When we live truthfully with ourselves, we will find freedom, and from there, we will experience peace in our hearts. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a carpenter. He lived a simple life, always working hard and being sincere with himself. One day, he met a meditation master and asked, "Master, how can I find peace in my heart?" The meditation master smiled and replied, "When you let go of worries, expectations about what is to come, when you live truthfully with what you are doing, you will feel peace in every action." This saying helped the carpenter realize that peace is not about finding a place away from troubles, but living truthfully with oneself and accepting what is happening in life. When we practice letting go and live truthfully with ourselves, we no longer feel tired or stressed. Our souls become light and calm, and from that, life becomes easier. Letting go is not about giving up, but about accepting and living in the freedom of our own being. When we let go of unnecessary things, we will feel freedom, peace, and a truly happy life. In modern life, we are often swept up in the fast pace with countless tasks, worries, and ongoing concerns. Every day, we strive to do more, to achieve more, only to end up feeling exhausted, drained, and without a sense of satisfaction or peace. The Buddha teaches, awakening does not come from doing more, but from learning to live in the present moment. This teaching opens up a new path for us, a path not of trying to do more, but of learning to live fully and completely in each present moment. Awakening, or mindfulness, is the ability to live fully in the present moment without being influenced by the past or worries about the future. When we live in the present moment, every thought, feeling, and action becomes clear and meaningful. But in today's world, where everything seems to happen too fast and we are always facing goals, expectations, and external pressures, it is difficult to maintain mindfulness. However, it is precisely in these chaotic moments that mindfulness is the key to finding peace and freedom in our hearts. Our minds are often distracted by thoughts about the past, regrets, or unfinished events. At the same time, we also worry about the future, about things that haven't happened yet, but have created a sense of stress. That is the reason our minds are always restless, unable to find peace. The Buddha teaches that when we live in the present moment, when we do not let our minds get caught up in endless thoughts, we will find tranquility and freedom within. Mindfulness is not a difficult technique or something distant. It is simply paying attention to what is happening in our lives, whether it is simple actions like eating, walking, or just sitting quietly and breathing. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to let go of unnecessary thoughts and focus only on what is happening in this moment. Each breath, each step, each movement becomes meaningful and more complete than ever before. One day, you sit down and enjoy a meal. If you eat with full attention, you will feel every bite of food, every sip of water, every flavor that you might easily overlook if your mind is thinking about other concerns. A meal that seems simple becomes a full and precious experience. When we eat with mindfulness, we not only nourish the body, but also nourish the soul. From that, each moment becomes an important part of our healing journey. In the Buddhist scriptures, there is a story about a famous meditation master. One day, he went into a village and met a man who was very worried about the future. The man asked the master, "Master, how can I find peace in my life when I am always worried about what has not yet come?" The master smiled and replied, "Live fully in each present moment. Don't let your mind be carried away by worries about the future or the past. Peace does not come from doing more, but from fully engaging with what is happening right now." This teaching reminds us that mindfulness is not about doing too much, but about living fully in each moment. When we live in the present moment, our soul becomes still and full of insight. We will realize that every moment, no matter how small, has value. When we practice mindfulness, everything becomes lighter. No longer worrying about what has not yet happened, no longer burdened by thoughts of the past. Everything becomes simple and complete, and this is where true peace resides. We often think that to feel happiness, we must achieve accomplishments, do many things, and have a lot of things. But the Buddha teaches that happiness does not come from these things, but from mindfulness, from living in the present moment, from letting go of worries and accepting what we have. When we no longer cling to distant expectations or dreams, we will find happiness in the simplest things. A simple example is self-care. When you take time to sit down, relax, and care for yourself without worrying about unfinished tasks or upcoming meetings, you are truly living in the present moment. When we know how to live fully with such simple things, we feel peace in our hearts and realize that life is truly beautiful. Peace comes from mindfulness in the present. When we let go of unnecessary thoughts and avoid distractions, everything becomes clear and lighter. We do not need to do more to feel peace. Just learn to live in each present moment. And then we will find peace and happiness right in our own lives. In this busy life, there may be moments when you feel trapped in a whirlpool you cannot escape. Your feet running endlessly without ever reaching the shore of peace. Have you ever felt, despite trying your best, that you still cannot feel the peace in your heart? In such moments, perhaps we have forgotten something important: mindfulness. What is mindfulness? It is returning to ourselves, the moment when we stop everything, let go of thoughts, worries, and concerns, and just remain with ourselves in the present. Mindfulness is not something distant, but the full presence in each moment, even in the simplest moments. Sometimes all we need is to stop and listen to ourselves, observe what is happening around us, and we will find peace. I want to share a story with you about a woman named Nu. She is a mother, a wife, and someone who works tirelessly. She always races against time, always trying to please everyone around her, forgetting herself. One day, while working in the kitchen, she suddenly stopped, feeling the sounds around her, the light from the lamp and the aroma of the dish simmering on the stove. She suddenly realized that all this time she had not truly lived in this moment, but had been constantly preoccupied with the past and the future. That was when she understood that there is no need to wish for anything more. Just being fully present in each moment is enough. Mindfulness does not mean that we have to change everything in our lives. It simply means recognizing and understanding that every passing moment is precious, and that each moment carries a gift. Sometimes, all we need to do is stop, take a deep breath, and feel life in every cell of our body. Mindfulness is not wishing for a perfect life or a future without difficulties. Mindfulness is living fully with what we have, feeling fully the simple things around us. Think about one morning when you wake up and look out the window. The dewdrops still cling to the leaves, birds chirp in the garden, and the warm light of dawn illuminates everything. These things may seem very ordinary, but if you are truly present in that moment, you will feel the freshness of life, the peace within yourself. That is mindfulness. Mindfulness can also be in other simple moments, like when you are enjoying a cup of tea, walking under a tree's shade, or even sitting quietly in a calm room. Mindfulness is when you take time to truly live, not just exist, but live fully, feeling each moment. There is a saying from the Buddha that I really like: live as if you were to die tomorrow, but learn as if you were to live forever. This is the profound meaning of mindfulness. When you live fully in each moment, you will no longer fear things that cannot be changed, no longer be haunted by the past or future. You will see that every moment is precious, and simply being present in that moment is enough. Mindfulness does not have to be something grand. It is simply awareness of the life around us, returning to ourselves, not chasing dreams or expectations while overlooking the present. We can find peace in a gentle breeze, in the morning light, in the birds singing, or in a heartfelt conversation with a loved one. These moments, if you know how to cherish and live fully with them, will bring you peace without needing to wish for anything more. Another small story is about a man named Doi. He is an office worker, always busy with work and meetings. He always thought that only when he achieved great goals could he find happiness. But one day, while sitting in his favorite cafe, he noticed the leaves falling to the ground, people around him smiling and chatting. He suddenly realized that life doesn't always have to be a race, and sometimes Simply stopping and appreciating the small things is where true joy can be found. And that is the essence of mindfulness. Living in the present moment, fully embracing what we have, and not expecting anything more. When you learn to return to yourself, you will realize that every moment in life is precious. And true happiness doesn't come from owning many things, but from the peace within your soul. Mindfulness is the realization that every moment has its value. And only when we are fully present in the moment can we feel the peace we are seeking. In this fast-paced life, we often seek happiness in external achievements, completed tasks, goals achieved, fame, or material things that society defines as success. But the Buddha teaches, when the mind is calm enough, we will see that life has meaning, and happiness is not found in external accomplishments, but in the present life itself. This teaching is like a shining torch, guiding us to find peace and happiness in the simple moments of life. We often think that happiness comes from big things, notable successes, or recognition from others. But the truth is, when the mind is not calm enough, we will never truly feel happiness, no matter how many achievements we make. When our mind is always disturbed, always worrying about the past, the future, or societal expectations, we will never truly live fully in the present. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not a destination, but a state of living in each moment. When we learn to live fully in the present, we will feel peace and happiness that do not depend on external factors. Inner stillness is the key to finding meaning in life. When the mind is calm enough, we will realize that every moment, whether simple or grand, has value and brings joy. It is not because we achieve a goal that we are happy, but because we are truly living in each moment of life. When we truly live in the present, we will find happiness in the simplest things, from a delicious meal, a peaceful morning, to a warm conversation with a loved one. Mindfulness is the practice that helps us cultivate inner stillness. Mindfulness is not a complex technique or something distant, but simply focusing on each present moment without being distracted by thoughts of the past or worries about the future. When we live with mindfulness, we will realize that everything around us has life and value. The smallest things in life will become more meaningful when we truly live with them. When the mind is calm enough, we will see life become clearer and lighter. Every challenge, no matter how difficult, will become easier when we face it with a peaceful mind. Sometimes we feel tired, stressed from focusing too much on distant goals and things that haven't happened. But when we let go of worries and live only in the present, we will realize that, despite the challenges, this life is a precious journey, and every moment in it contains beauty. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a famous meditation master who always lived in a state of calmness and peace. One day, a young person came to him and asked, "Master, how can I live happily? How can my life have meaning?" The meditation master smiled and answered, "Live fully in each present moment. Happiness does not come from achievements or what we desire, but from living truthfully with oneself, accepting the present and letting go of unnecessary worries." This teaching helped the young person realize that happiness is not something distant, but the ability to live fully in what we have right now. When we learn to live in the present moment, we will realize that happiness comes from the simplest things. A peaceful day, a gentle breath, a smile from a loved one, or simply doing something with a peaceful mind. All of these can bring joy and peace to the heart. Happiness is not a goal to achieve, but a state of living that we can experience right now. We do not need to do more to feel happiness. The Buddha teaches that peace and happiness come from within, from the stillness in the soul. When we know how to live with ourselves, letting go of unnecessary worries, we will realize that life is truly beautiful and happiness exists in each moment. It is life in each breath, in each step, in every action. A complete and meaningful life. So, instead of seeking happiness in external achievements or fame, return to yourself. Live fully in each present moment. Let go of unnecessary worries and expectations, and you will realize that true happiness lies in your hands, in the peace of your soul, in the stillness of each moment. When the mind is calm enough, life will become more beautiful and meaningful, and happiness will come naturally, not from achievements, but from living fully with what we have. Each of us must face inevitable difficulties and challenges. Sometimes, these difficulties make us feel exhausted, lost, and even desperate. But the Buddha teaches, difficulties in life can be an opportunity for us to face ourselves and find peace within. This teaching gives us a new perspective on difficulties, not as something to avoid or fear, but as an opportunity to go deep inside, understand ourselves, and find peace from within our own soul. Whenever we face challenges, our minds are easily swept into negative thoughts, worrying about things we cannot control, or becoming immersed in fear of the future. However, when we do not let these emotions control us, but instead view difficulties as an opportunity to reflect on our inner selves, we will realize that it is in these challenging moments that we can find growth and peace. Because each difficulty, each challenge is a part of life, a condition for us to discover strength and resilience we did not know we had. The Buddha teaches that all suffering, difficulties, and challenges in life can become valuable lessons if we know how to view them with a calm mind and mindfulness. When the mind is no longer disturbed by external things, when we no longer react hastily or with tension, we will realize that everything that happens in life has a reason, a message we need to learn. It is in these difficult moments that we can learn to let go of unnecessary worries, learn to face our emotions with clarity and understanding. Difficulties are not negative if we know how to view them. In Buddhism, endurance and patience are important virtues that help us overcome all difficulties. But endurance does not mean enduring with indifference or submitting without understanding the essence. It is mindful endurance, the ability to recognize everything that is happening without being swept away by negative emotions and thoughts. When we learn to live in the present moment, accept difficulties and challenges without resistance or judgment, we will realize that we are not burdened by circumstances. Mindfulness is the key to living peacefully during difficult times. When we live with mindfulness, we do not let external difficulties affect the peace within our soul. Instead of being caught in a whirlwind of worries and fears, we focus on each breath, each step, each sensation in our body, and realize that we can still remain calm even when circumstances around us are challenging. Mindfulness helps us not lose ourselves in the turbulent waves of life, but still maintain composure and clarity. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a meditation master who had to face many difficulties in life. One day he was asked, "Master, how can I find peace in such difficult times?" The master smiled and answered, "When you face difficulties without letting them control you, when you view everything with a calm mind, you will see that peace does not come from avoiding difficulties, but from accepting and living fully with what is happening." This teaching opens a new perspective on difficulties, not something to avoid, but an opportunity to train ourselves, to understand ourselves better, and to learn how to calmly face life. Difficulties are opportunities to train patience and clarity. When the mind is no longer distracted by external things, when we live in the present moment and view everything with a peaceful mind, we will see that challenges become wonderful opportunities for growth. The Buddha teaches that only when we face life's difficulties calmly, without being influenced by negative emotions or thoughts, can we truly find freedom in our soul. We will realize that peace is not something distant, but a state of living in the present, an inner peace even in difficulties, even in things that seem unbearable. That is when we let go of expectations, worries about what is to come, and live fully with what is happening. When the soul is calm enough, We are no longer swept up in difficulties, but instead, we see them as opportunities for growth and maturity. We no longer seek peace from outside, but from our own understanding and acceptance of life. Peace comes from facing ourselves, from living truthfully with the emotions and challenges life brings. Difficulties in life are not something to fear, but opportunities for us to step out of our comfort zone, to understand ourselves better, and to find inner peace. When the mind is calm enough, we will realize that nothing is too big or too difficult to overcome, and peace will always be present within us. We often get caught in the race for perfection, constantly seeking the best, and sometimes forgetting an important thing. Peace of mind does not come from perfection, but from accepting what we have and learning to love ourselves. There's a story about a woman named Ha. Ha is a very hardworking person, always striving to complete tasks excellently and never accepting defeat. She always seeks perfection in everything, from caring for her family to her work, and even the relationships around her. But in that life full of pressure, Ha began to feel more and more tired and uneasy. She always felt that she was not good enough, that what she did was still not excellent. And so, she kept racing against time, never satisfied with what she had. One day, when Ha was sitting by the lake watching the birds flying, she suddenly realized that those birds fly without needing to seek perfection. They don't worry about whether they are flying correctly. They simply fly, living true to their nature. From that moment, Ha understood that peace is not perfection, but self-acceptance. When she began to love herself and gently acknowledge what she had, she felt as if a burden had been lifted. She no longer forced herself to do everything perfectly. She accepted that she is human, with flaws and limitations, and this acceptance brought her the peace she had been searching for. Ha's story is also the story of many of us. In modern life, we easily fall into the trap of perfection. We want a perfect job, a happy family, a beautiful appearance, and a life without problems. But in reality, nothing is perfect in this world. Everything has its own imperfections. And it is these imperfections that make life interesting and meaningful. The truth is, inner peace does not come from having everything perfect, but from accepting the imperfections in life and learning to love oneself. Inner peace comes from acceptance. When we begin to view life with a loving perspective, instead of focusing only on shortcomings, we will realize that we don't need to do everything perfectly. We can slow down, stop to feel life, to love and care for ourselves. Self-acceptance is the way to free ourselves from worrying about things that cannot be changed and to live a gentler and more serene life. Imagine a morning when you wake up and see the soft sunlight shining through the window. You can sit down, close your eyes, and feel the warmth of the light. That is a peaceful moment you can enjoy without needing to wish for anything more. That is acceptance, being grateful for what you have in the present. When we begin to accept everything, whether good or bad, we will feel freedom in our souls, and this freedom brings us peace. It's like a person walking in the rain. At first, they might feel bothered by being wet, but then they realize that the rain cannot be changed. Instead of trying to avoid it, they choose to walk straight into the rain, feeling each drop as a part of life. They don't resist what cannot be changed, but choose to harmonize with it. And in that moment, they feel peace because they have accepted that life is not always perfect, but we can find peace in how we perceive it. Acceptance does not mean resignation. Acceptance does not mean that we do not change or strive to improve ourselves. Acceptance is acknowledging that life has its ups and downs, its successes and failures, but all of these are part of the journey. And when we know how to love ourselves, when we view ourselves with love instead of criticism, we will feel peace without needing to search far and wide. Try to look at yourself, listen to the thoughts in your head, and feel the emotions in your heart. Sometimes we need to stop and ask ourselves, do I love myself enough? Am I accepting myself with all that I have? When we answer these questions honestly, we will realize that we don't need to wish for anything more. Peace is already within us, in everything we already have. Inner peace is not perfection. It is accepting what we have, loving and caring for ourselves. When we learn to love ourselves, when we understand that we don't need to be perfect to deserve love, we will find peace in every moment, in every step of life. Start loving yourself, and you will see that life, no matter how many challenges, always brings you wonderful and peaceful things. There are times when we often forget something important. The tranquility of the soul cannot be bought with money or material things. It doesn't come from external achievements, but from living sincerely, being mindful, and truly listening to ourselves. The Buddha teaches that meditation and listening to oneself can help us find tranquility in the soul. This is a simple but profound truth, because it is in the stillness of the soul that we can truly feel true peace. Meditation is not an activity that is distant or hard to understand. Meditation is a simple yet effective method that helps us return to ourselves, helps us stop and listen to what is happening in our mind and body. The Buddha teaches that when we stop seeking peace outside and instead turn to stillness within, we will realize that it's always present in each present moment. Meditation helps us see the thoughts, emotions, and sensations in our bodies that we often fail to notice when we live in a rush. When we meditate, we not only calm the body, but also soothe the chaotic emotions in our minds, helping us feel lighter and more peaceful. There is a story in the Buddhist scriptures about a famous meditation master. One day, a person came to him and asked, "Master, how can I find peace in my heart amidst the busyness of life?" The master smiled and answered, "Sit down and calm your mind. Let go of all thoughts, leaving only the breath and the presence in this moment." Peace does not come from doing more or achieving something, but from the stillness within, from listening to yourself. The master's teaching is a valuable lesson, helping us understand that peace is not something that can be found outside, but a state of mind that we can create through mindfulness and meditation. Meditation is not something complex. It can begin with short moments in the day where we take time to stop, breathe deeply, and feel what is happening in our body and mind. When we meditate, we do not try to change or fix anything, but simply observe and accept the thoughts, feelings, and sensations present in the moment. Meditation helps us create an inner space of peace where we can listen and understand ourselves better, our emotions, worries, and the joys we experience in life. Listening to ourselves is an important part of finding tranquility. We are often caught up in the thoughts and emotions of others or consumed by worries about things we cannot control. But when we take time to listen to ourselves, we will realize that the answers we seek about life and happiness have always been within us. All we need to do is stop, listen, and accept our thoughts and feelings, and we will understand ourselves better and find peace from there. The Buddha teaches that living with awareness, mindfulness, is not only about sitting in meditation or practicing exercises, but also about how we live in each moment of life. When we know how to listen to ourselves, we will no longer feel confused or swept away by unnecessary worries. We will know how to let go of concerns about the future and not let the past affect our soul. Listening to ourselves is also facing our fears, uncomfortable emotions, and learning to accept them instead of running away. Only when we dare to face our emotions can we free our souls and find peace. One day, you take time to meditate, just for 10 minutes, but during that time, you do nothing except focus on your breath. Feel each heartbeat and the sensations in your body. When you live in the present moment, not worrying about what is past or what is to come, you will feel a peace and calmness without needing to search for it elsewhere. That is the power of meditation and listening to yourself, a gentle and profound healing. Listening to yourself does not mean getting lost in negative thoughts or emotions, but understanding and accepting what is happening in your soul, helping you live naturally and truthfully with yourself. When we know how to live truthfully with ourselves, not pretending or living for others, we will find tranquility in our hearts and experience happiness in the simple things in life. Meditation and listening to oneself are two wonderful methods to help us find tranquility in the soul. When we live with awareness, not swept away by worries or unnecessary thoughts, we will feel peace within ourselves. It is a process of healing, a journey to find stillness within. Take time to meditate and listen to yourself, because only when we live with mindfulness can we truly find peace and happiness in life. We often face challenges and pressures from work, society, and relationships. Sometimes we feel tired from constantly striving, trying to prove ourselves, and competing with others. But the Buddha teaches that true happiness does not come from trying to prove ourselves or comparing ourselves with others. True happiness is when we live as our true selves, when we don't need to wear a mask or do things that are not true to ourselves to seek recognition from others. What is happiness? Surely, everyone has their own definition of happiness. But the Buddha teaches that happiness is not the presence of material things or external achievements. Rather, true happiness comes from peace in the soul, from living truthfully with ourselves, not needing to compare or prove ourselves to anyone. When we live in accordance with our true nature, we will feel freedom, lightness, and most importantly, peace in our hearts. We often fall into the trap of comparison. Today's social media constantly makes us compare ourselves to others. From their successes, preferences, to the perfect photos they post. We easily feel we are lacking, not good enough, or not beautiful enough compared to what others show. But when we live as our true selves, we will realize that everyone has their own journey, their own value, and no comparison can diminish our worth. The truth is, when we live truthfully, without trying to please others or follow external models, we can find true happiness. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not something outside of us, but a state within. When we find peace within, when we accept and love ourselves, happiness will come naturally. That is why living mindfully, living with awareness in every moment, is so important. When we live mindfully, we no longer worry about whether we are good enough, beautiful enough, or successful enough. We simply live in the present, feel and accept what we have and who we are. Meditation is a wonderful method to help us find peace and live true to our nature. When we meditate, we don't need to do anything complicated. Just sit quietly, focus on the breath, and listen to the thoughts and emotions present in the mind. Meditation helps us let go of worries, expectations about the future, and allows ourselves to live in each present moment. When we practice meditation, we are also listening to and accepting ourselves without judgment or criticism. It is in these moments that we will feel peace and the truth that we are enough. True happiness is when we no longer have to prove ourselves, when we don't need to do anything to be recognized by others or compare ourselves to anyone. When we live true to ourselves, we will realize that we don't need to change to meet others' expectations. We don't need to become someone else to be loved or respected. Respect and love will come naturally when we live sincerely, when we know how to accept ourselves with all our strengths, weaknesses, and imperfections. The Buddha teaches us that we can only truly be happy when we know how to let go of what does not belong to us, unrealistic expectations, and worries about the future. Happiness is not a destination, but a state of mind, a process that we maintain every day. When we understand and live according to these teachings, we will feel lighter, freer, and most importantly, we will find joy in each moment of life. Happiness is also about accepting imperfections. We don't need to completely change to become perfect in the eyes of others. In fact, it is these imperfections that make up our identity. When we accept ourselves as we are, without pretending or faking, we will feel tranquility in our hearts. And that is true happiness, not from what we gain from outside, but from the freedom and peace within our own hearts. Let each day be an opportunity for you to live with your true self. Don't worry too much about whether you're good enough, beautiful enough, or successful enough. Happiness doesn't come from those things. Happiness comes from loving yourself, living in the present, and not comparing yourself to others. Remember, you are perfect as you are, and you deserve all the peace and happiness in this life. We often feel tired, stressed, and sometimes can't find a reason for our exhaustion. It seems we are always racing against time, always worrying about things left undone and things not yet achieved. But perhaps the solution to exhaustion is not doing more, but learning to stop, breathe deeply, and live in the present. One typical day in the life of a young man named Min. Min is a very hardworking person, always trying to do more each day to complete tasks, meet the demands of family, friends, and colleagues. The whole day, he doesn't have time to rest. He always feels that he must do something to avoid being left behind. And then one day, Min feels so tired that he cannot continue with his work. He can't find joy in the things he does. Everything seems meaningless and sluggish. One morning, Min accidentally met an old friend in a cafe. She looked at him, smiled, and said, "Min, have you ever felt tired, not because you are doing too much, but because you don't stop to breathe?" Min was surprised, but that question felt like a wake-up call to him. He realized that he had been too focused on doing more and doing fast, but forgot the importance of breathing and fully living in each moment. Min's story is a typical example for many of us. We live in a busy world where everything must be done quickly and efficiently. It seems that stopping and breathing has become a luxury, something we can't afford time for. But in reality, it is this stopping that is necessary to help us regain our strength and peace. In Buddhism, there is a concept that I deeply resonate with: living in the present. This means we do not live in the past, nor do we live for the future. Life truly exists only in the present moment. And if we don't know how to stop, don't know how to breathe and appreciate the little moments, we will be caught in an endless spiral of anxiety, unease, and exhaustion. I remember one time when I was standing under a large tree in the park, watching the leaves fly in the wind. At that moment, I suddenly realized that each leaf, when it falls, can touch the ground gently and peacefully, even though it cannot do anything to resist the change of time. And I felt like I was that leaf. Everything around us changes. There are things that are unavoidable, but instead of worrying, I just needed to stop, breathe deeply, and feel the peace within my heart. That feeling was wonderful. That moment helped me realize that I don't need to do more. I don't need to force myself to achieve everything, but simply stopping and living in the present allows me to find peace in my soul. You might be thinking that life has no time to stop. How can we breathe deeply when work never ends? But in reality, just a few minutes a day to breathe and reflect on yourself will make a huge difference. A life that passes in haste, always feeling like there's not enough time, will never bring us true peace. We don't need to do more. We need to learn how to do less, but with quality and completeness. Try once, when you feel stressed and tired, to stop for a moment. Find a quiet place, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Inhale and exhale. Keep doing this for a few minutes. You will realize that the fatigue doesn't come from doing too much, but from not knowing how to stop and rest to restore your energy. Only when you breathe deeply will you realize that it is stillness and peace that provide the true energy to continue your journey. There is another story about an older man named Tai. Tai is a wealthy and very busy man. He was always looking for ways to make more money, invest in real estate, and even join big projects. But as he grew older, Tai felt that everything had become meaningless. He had everything he needed, but he lacked peace in his soul. One day, he was walking in the park and saw a group of children playing. They were joyful, carefree, simply enjoying each moment. Thai suddenly realized that he had forgotten the precious things in life, and he decided to change. He stopped, breathed deeply, and decided to slow down, enjoying simple things like the sound of birds chirping, the scent of blooming flowers, and the smiles of those around him. Thai's story is a great lesson for all of us. Life does not always have to be a race and doing more. Sometimes the solution to exhaustion is learning how to stop, breathe deeply, and live fully in the present. We don't need to go far. We just need to stop for a moment, feel the simple things around us, and we will find the peace we've always been searching for. In a life full of hustle, rush, and pressure, we sometimes forget that happiness does not come from external things, but from peace within ourselves. The Buddha teaches that finding ourselves is not a search far away, but an inner journey where we learn to let go and not be swept into the race of life. It is in this journey that we can find freedom, peace, and the truth about ourselves. Modern life often makes us fall into an endless cycle, working more, chasing goals, comparing ourselves with others, and always trying to prove ourselves. We sometimes forget that true happiness is not the result of achievements or external recognition, but inner peace. The Buddha teaches that happiness is not something that can be found in success, but is a state that we can create through mindfulness and letting go. When we learn not to be caught in the endless race, we can rediscover ourselves. Rediscovering ourselves is a long and challenging journey, but it is an incredibly valuable journey. We cannot find ourselves in things outside, in work or fame. Our true self is not the ego we often project in society, but the inner self, the true self, without needing to prove or compare. The Buddha teaches that to rediscover ourselves, we must learn to let go. Let go of unrealistic expectations, let go of worries, and let go of negative emotions that distract our minds. In the journey to rediscover ourselves, meditation is an incredibly valuable tool. Meditation is not only a method of relaxation, but a way to reflect on ourselves, to cleanse and heal our souls. When we meditate, we do nothing but stop, breathe, and listen to the thoughts and feelings in our hearts. In those moments, we will realize that all worries, all negative emotions are just passing clouds, not our true nature. Meditation helps us return to ourselves, helps us realize that we don't need to race or compete with anyone. We just need to live truthfully with ourselves and live in the present. Mindfulness in life is an important part of this journey. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to live fully in each moment without being swept away by thoughts of the past or worries about the future. Mindfulness helps us see the emotions, thoughts, and unconscious habits we often fail to notice. When we become mindful, we will no longer be swept away by negative emotions, but can view them objectively, and from there, let go and find peace. Rediscovering ourselves does not mean running away from life or abandoning responsibilities. In fact, rediscovering ourselves is facing and accepting life with all the challenges and difficulties it brings. The Buddha teaches that life is not an easy path, but it is an opportunity for us to grow and learn. When we are no longer afraid, no longer anxious about what hasn't happened, we will see life with new eyes, full of understanding and love. One important thing in the journey of rediscovering ourselves is learning to let go. Letting go does not mean giving up or being lazy, but accepting that there are things beyond our control. Letting go is abandoning unrealistic expectations, abandoning comparisons with others, and letting go of worries about things we cannot change. When we know how to let go, we will feel lighter, no longer burdened by unnecessary things. Only when we let go can we live truthfully with ourselves, living fully in each moment of life. The journey to rediscover oneself is also a journey of healing. We may have carried old wounds, pains from the past that we sometimes don't even realize. But when we live mindfully, When we face ourselves without hiding or denying our emotions, we begin to heal those wounds. Healing is not about completely erasing the pain, but about learning to live with it peacefully, without letting it control our lives. Rediscovering oneself is a meaningful journey, even though it may sometimes come with difficulties and challenges. But it is in these difficult times that we find growth, a deeper understanding of ourselves and life. The Buddha teaches that every challenge can become an opportunity for us to grow, as long as we approach them with a calm, mindful, and loving heart. In the end, the journey to rediscover oneself is not about doing something grand or chasing after external success. It is about living authentically, living fully in each moment, and letting go of worries and meaningless comparisons. When we rediscover ourselves, we will realize that happiness and peace are always present in this life, as long as we stop, live mindfully, and open our hearts to everything happening around us. In this life, we often face challenges, pains, and exhaustion, sometimes feeling like we can't bear it anymore. During such times, we often seek change, hoping that changing our environment, work, or the people around us will make life more comfortable. However, the Buddha teaches that gentleness and compassion toward ourselves are the keys to overcoming pain and exhaustion without needing to change everything externally. This does not mean we give up on positive changes in life, but it is the awareness that true peace and happiness come from within, from how we face and care for ourselves. Gentleness toward oneself is not weakness or resignation. It is the understanding and acceptance of our emotions in a gentle and patient way. In modern society, we are often taught to be strong, to strive relentlessly, and not to be weak or feel tired. But the truth is, when we cannot face our difficult emotions, when we do not allow ourselves moments of rest and healing, we will not find peace. The Buddha teaches that when we face pain and exhaustion with gentleness and compassion, we not only find peace, but also heal our souls. When our minds are full of worries, when our bodies are tired from stress and work, what we need is not another effort or trying to change everything, but a moment to stop and reflect on ourselves. Compassion for ourselves is the awareness and acceptance of those uncomfortable feelings, instead of avoiding or denying them. When we are gentle with ourselves, we will not feel guilty or pressured to stop for rest. On the contrary, we will understand that rest is necessary to heal, to regain strength and mental clarity. The Buddha teaches compassion not only for others, but also for ourselves. Compassion is not just about feeling sorry for those around us, but the ability to love and care for ourselves. When we show compassion to ourselves, we learn to forgive ourselves, accept our weaknesses, mistakes, and learn to love ourselves unconditionally. It is this compassion that will help us overcome all challenges. Because when we are no longer harsh with ourselves, when we allow ourselves to be weak and imperfect, we will find peace within. Mindfulness is an important part of learning to face ourselves gently. When we live mindfully, we do not let worries and negative emotions control our lives. We learn to perceive each moment, each thought and feeling with a compassionate attitude, without judgment or resistance. Instead of diving into an endless race, we choose to stop so our soul can be still, letting emotions settle and making everything clearer. Mindfulness helps us not only live in the present, but also love and care for ourselves, so that every moment becomes a journey of healing. When we practice mindfulness and compassion, we will realize that pain and exhaustion are not things to be avoided or feared. Instead of feeling weak or powerless when facing these emotions, we will understand that they are part of the living process, an essential aspect for us to grow and understand ourselves better. When we accept these emotions without resistance or denial, we will feel lighter because we no longer have to force ourselves to hide them. There is a story in Buddhist scriptures about a longtime practitioner who has endured much pain and hardship in life. One day, he was asked, "Master, How can I stop feeling tired and suffering in life? The master smiled and said, "You don't need to avoid pain or exhaustion. You just need to face them gently and with compassion. Listen to yourself, feel your emotions and accept them. When you no longer struggle with pain, it will no longer be a burden." This teaching reminds us that when we face difficulties with gentleness and compassion, we not only overcome the pain, but also find peace in our hearts. We don't need to change everything to find peace. Sometimes, what we need to do is simply stop, listen to ourselves, and face our emotions with compassion. When we can forgive ourselves, love and care for ourselves as a best friend, we will realize that peace doesn't come from external things, but from care, understanding, and gentleness toward ourselves. Finally, healing is not something distant or hard to achieve. It is an inner journey where we learn to love ourselves, let go of stress and fatigue, and live with peace in our hearts. Gentleness and compassion for ourselves are the keys to overcoming the challenges of life. And when we learn to love ourselves, all pain becomes lighter. Let this gentleness guide you, help you find peace, and experience a fuller, freer life right within yourself. Life does not always go as we expect. Sometimes we get so caught up in pursuing perfection that we forget that it is the imperfect moments that make life colorful. Accepting imperfection is the first step in finding inner peace. You don't have to do everything perfectly to feel complete, happy, or at peace. Just learning to love yourself with all those imperfections, you will find that you can live a truly fulfilling life. I remember a friend named Lan, who was a perfectionist. Every time she went to work, Lan always gave her best, not allowing herself to make any mistakes. She always took time to do everything meticulously, from work to the relationships around her. However, sometimes this perfectionism became a burden, making her feel tired and stressed. She always put pressure on herself, unable to forgive even the smallest mistakes, whether at work or in life. And one day, in a conversation with me, she exclaimed, "I always feel inadequate, even though I've tried my best." Hearing those words, I realized that she was racing towards an ideal of perfection that she couldn't even reach. Lan didn't realize that the perfection she was seeking was merely an illusion. No one is perfect, and no one can do everything perfectly forever. Failures, mistakes, and imperfect moments are valuable lessons we need to learn in order to grow. One time, I also faced a similar situation. I remember a day when I had to give an important presentation. I had meticulously prepared every detail, practiced every word, and thought that if I didn't do well, I would fail. When standing in front of the crowd, I felt nervous and even had a few imperfect parts in the presentation. But instead of feeling disappointed, I paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and told myself that I had done my best. The small mistakes in the presentation were just part of the learning process. And what mattered most was that I had dared to stand up and share. When it ended, I realized that nothing was more important than accepting myself, accepting those imperfect moments, and seeing the value in those experiences. Accepting imperfection is an important part of the journey to find peace. When we live with unrealistic expectations of ourselves, we create invisible pressures that make us always feel exhausted. Every time you feel inadequate or imperfect, remember that you are not a machine, but a human being with emotions, mistakes, and lessons. None of us are perfect, and it is that imperfection that creates the uniqueness and beauty in each person. Think of a painting. A beautiful painting is not beautiful because every stroke is perfect, but because of the harmonious combination of those strokes, even if some are crooked or incomplete. Just like our lives, we don't need to make everything perfect to find completeness. Imperfect things are what make life vibrant and give it its unique colors. There is a saying that I always keep in mind. We are shining stars, but not all stars are the same. Each person has their own way of shining, and what matters is that we learn to love and accept ourselves with all the flaws and imperfections. Only then can we find peace in our hearts without trying to make everything perfect. Accepting imperfection is freedom. Freedom from excessive expectations, freedom from invisible pressures, and freedom to live a truly fulfilling life. I remember a story about a woman named Tao, who had gone through many hardships in life. She had lost her dream job, experienced failures in love, and faced many challenges. But instead of being defeated by difficulties, Tao learned to accept imperfection in life. She no longer focused on success or failure, but instead, she found joy in simple things like waking up to a hot cup of tea in the morning or spending moments with her family. She began to love and care for herself more, no longer comparing herself to others, and realized that peace came from accepting herself with all the imperfections. And Tao once shared with me a very simple but powerful sentence. Sometimes it is the cracks in life that allow the light to shine through. Those cracks, mistakes, and failures are valuable lessons that help us grow and find peace within ourselves. When we learn to accept imperfection, we will find peace in our hearts, not because we have achieved everything, but because we have learned to love ourselves, even when we are not perfect. So, if you feel tired from unrealistic expectations, take a moment to stop, breathe deeply, and accept yourself. We don't have to do everything perfectly to feel complete. Peace comes from self-love and knowing that we are good enough, even though we are not perfect. Life is always full of challenges, worries, and things that don't go as we wish. Sometimes we feel exhausted, not because of too much work, but because our hearts haven't found peace. The Buddha teaches, it is not the many tasks that make us tired, but the mind that does not know how to let go. This teaching reminds us that exhaustion does not come from the outside, but from the thoughts, worries, and emotions we carry within. When we don't know how to let go, our hearts will be burdened with unnecessary things, and peace will always be distant. Healing is not something magical or difficult to understand. It is the journey of learning to let go of worries, insecurity, and daring to live authentically. When we truly stop, listen, and accept everything in life without resistance, we can free our hearts from invisible burdens. Our hearts need rest, love, and care. We are often too harsh on ourselves, setting too many expectations, and forgetting that peace can only come when we allow ourselves to live naturally, without having to please anyone. Try stopping for a moment and giving yourself some quiet time, whether it's in the early morning, feeling the gentle breaths, or simply sitting still, observing the world around you. When we live in such moments, not worrying about the past, not fearing the future, we will feel the peace and freedom in our hearts. Healing is a process that each person must experience for themselves, not to escape pain, but to face it calmly. It is the understanding that pain is not the enemy, but a part of life with which we need to learn to live in harmony. The Buddha teaches that letting go does not mean giving up, but knowing how to accept, to forgive oneself, and to accept what cannot be changed. When we learn to let go, our hearts will no longer be burdened, and everything becomes lighter. So give yourself gentleness. Know how to forgive and accept yourself as part of this life. Don't chase after things that are not truly necessary. Don't let worries and stress pull us away from the present, but live fully with what we have. Every moment in life is a gift, and you deserve to enjoy it completely. I wish you, no matter what challenges you face, always find peace within your heart. Remember, peace doesn't come from doing more, but from knowing how to let go, to live in each moment, and to love yourself. Let your heart always remain open and allow yourself to find joy in the simple things. Peace will come, not from a distant place, but right within you, in every gentle breath and every gentle step.